Channel 5.
Grief and love, an outpouring of emotion at the memorial service for the victims of the high school shooting. The parents of the young gunman say they knew nothing of their son's anger or their violent plans. And NATO leaders sticking together with the frontline countries bordering Yugoslavia.
This is the CBS Evening News with John Roberts.
Good evening. John is off tonight. I'm Anthony Mason. In grief, the population of Littleton, Colorado was more than doubled today as 70,000 mourners assembled at an outdoor service to remember the victims of last week's Columbine high school shooting. Cynthia Bowers was there.
They came by the tens of thousands, a multitude of mourners, overflowing an enormous parking lot not far from Columbine High School, seeking solace in numbers.
Today we stand shoulder to shoulder to cry with you, to share your grief, and to offer you our love.
And in a town where almost everyone knows each other, remembrances are wrenching.
A teacher makes the supreme sacrifice and gives his life trying to save his students.
The tragedy in Littleton, Colorado has thrust this community into the world spotlight and today brought out national leaders with words of comfort, including Colin Powell and Vice President Al Gore.
I do know this, at such a time we need each other. I say you are not alone. The heart of America aches with yours.
This is our neighborhood. This is where we ride our bikes. I don't know anything else other than time that heals things.
Throughout a week that has brought so much suffering, this living memorial has continued to flourish. It is a place of pilgrimage, a symbol of sorrow and salvation.
It hurts, and I just feel that this is one way to make it feel better.
Columbine.
And amid the tears and the heartbreak, today's gathering gave many a new sense of strength and a heartfelt belief that this community can stand united and can carry on.
Columbine, friend of mine.
Cynthia Bowers, CBS News, Littleton, Colorado.
Thank you. Colorado's Governor Bill Owens said today the parents of the two teenage shooters could face prosecution. Attorney General Janet Reno said federal investigators will also probe what the parents knew or should have known. Bill Whitaker has more on the investigation.
The investigation of the Columbine High School crime scene was scaled back today to give weary detectives a day of rest, time to mourn.
They're going in.
The teenage gunmen fired off hundreds of rounds when they stormed the school, and investigators are examining every cartridge and bullet, even one removed from the brain of Patrick Ireland, who was rescued by the SWAT team.
They're specifically looking to see if they can identify any bullets or slugs that aren't accounted for from the weapons found on the bodies of the two killers. That would tell them that there may have been a third person in there.
Identifying accomplices is the main goal. The day of the massacre, detectives questioned some students. Now they're re-questioning others, especially members of the so-called trenchcoat mafia, the assailants' group of friends. Detectives want to know where the shooters got their guns. The parents of Dylan Klebold want to know too.
I just don't understand where this came from. The father hates guns.
Pastor Don Markshausen led a private memorial for Dylan yesterday. He says the family never saw the rage, the attraction to Hitler, which is especially painful to the mother.
Because she's Jewish. So why would somebody who's half Jewish be connected with such things as Adolf Hitler and all that kind of stuff? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
But a psychologist who has studied the violent website of assailant Eric Harris says the rage was there for all to see.
If somebody really skilled had seen this, there's a possibility that we would not have a memorial service today.
CBS News has learned that Harris's parents say they knew nothing about his website, that the sawed-off shotgun barrel police say they retrieved from one of the boys' rooms didn't come from Eric's room, and that the Harris family now is concerned for its safety. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Littleton, Colorado.
The NATO alliance wound up its 50th anniversary summit in Washington tonight with a show of solidarity in the war against Yugoslavia. Cheryl Atkinson tells us Yugoslavia's 7 neighbors were singled out for special support.
President Clinton and NATO allies stood shoulder to shoulder as the summit ended today and promised the countries bordering Yugoslavia the strongest security guarantees yet, under the protection of NATO's widening umbrella.
We will stand by the neighboring countries that have accepted risks and hardship in support of this effort. If Mr. Milosevic threatens them for helping us, we will respond.
Support from those frontline states is critical to the NATO operation against Serbia. Today, Macedonia agreed to accept 4,000 more NATO forces, bringing the troop count there to 16,000. 2 other border states agreed to let NATO jets bomb the Serbs from their airspace. NATO hopes the enhanced security ties will further isolate Serb leader Milosevic and discourage him from retaliating against his NATO-friendly neighbors.
In the region, Milosevic is all alone. He is a pariah in his own backyard. His neighbors are moving away from him.
But while the rhetoric has come easy, there is still no consensus among the 19 NATO members on exactly how to stop Milosevic and return ethnic Albanians to their homes. NATO members came to Washington to celebrate the alliance's 50th anniversary, and so they emphasized areas of agreement rather than discord. But how well they work together and how successful they are in solving the crisis in Kosovo may become NATO's defining challenge. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, the White House.
Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, more Apache helicopters spearhead the U.S. military buildup in the Balkans. Also, how the Waco disaster haunts efforts to monitor a new crop of millennial cults. And video playing kids and the finger pointing at their games.
What will it take to build this company?
To get ready for prime time on the web.
How can we do everything a little faster? Okay, a lot faster.
When they're looking for answers, more CIOs, more webmasters, more people look to Compaq than to any other computer company in the world.
Limits? What limits?
Compaq. Better answers.
I am not an electrician. I am not a decorator. I am not a mover. I'm a home buyer. And I could use some help.
Introducing a new time-saving service exclusively for Coldwell Banker customers. Coldwell Banker Concierge is designed to help home buyers and sellers take care of the details of moving.
I am not a landscaper. I'm not a painter. And I'm going to be okay.
Call your local office and discover what real estate should be.
Sundown Herbals presents its remarkable Twist and Learn label. It works like an herbal information center that helps you learn about herbs simply by turning the label. Sundown's new Twist and Learn label, where to turn for help.
We're here with grades 3, 4, and 5 to help you remember 10-10, 3-4-5 long distance, where calls are always 10 cents a minute. So what's that number?
10-10-3-4-5.
Excellent.
Dial 10-10-345 today.
Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott says Social Security reform is dead for this session of Congress. He blames President Clinton for failing to lead on the issue. Tomorrow, the Senate takes up the thorny issue of lawsuits stemming from the Y2K computer bug. The GOP bill would impose a 30-day cooling-off period before lawsuits could be filed and would cap punitive damages. The coming of a new millennium has officials concerned about possible terrorist acts or mass suicides by religious and other cults. Stephanie Lambadakis reports the FBI is trying to look inside the minds of potentially dangerous zealots.
Sometimes authorities are able to round up suspicious cults before they turn to violence, as Israel did in January when they deported a group of Americans calling themselves concerned Christians. Israeli authorities suspected them of planning violent acts to fulfill prophecies about the millennium. The FBI warns that groups like the Concerned Christians could be on the rise as the year 2000 approaches.
We don't have the ability, unfortunately, to guarantee the avoidance of problems.
The FBI is keeping close watch on right-wing hate groups, religious extremists, and New Age cults. The Bureau wants to know why cults so often turn violent. Religious scholars are being called in to help.
Eternal perdition tends to get described in lots of text as fairly violent, being thrown into a lake of fire, for example.
This is a turnaround for the FBI, which came under harsh criticism after events turned sour at Waco.
His tongue is the pin of a...
When cult leader David Koresh preached, FBI agents ridiculed it as Bible babble, which the Bureau didn't understand. But now they're trying to. They're studying religious writings, examining tragedies like the mass suicides by the cult of the Solar Temple in Switzerland and the Heaven's Gate cult in California. They're tracking groups like this Taiwanese cult in Texas that waited in vain for God to appear on television. But the FBI faces a dilemma. It is forbidden from spying on religious groups.
The FBI is then poised between being damned if they do too much ahead of time and damned if they don't when things happen.
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of groups that plan to mark the millennium in some way. Just one violent act could set off a chain reaction, and the odds are the FBI won't be able to stop it. Stephanie Lambadakis, CBS News, Washington.
Believers in a form of meditation today staged China's largest protest since the bloody Tiananmen Square demonstrations 10 years ago this June. 10,000 people gathered near the homes of Chinese leaders to demand the right to practice a discipline that mixes meditation, exercise, and healing. Just ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, will more minority officers reduce the charges of police brutality? And later, Kosovar refugees risking everything to stay near their homeland.
The days of wearing bulky protective undergarments are over, all because of a revolutionary new product from Depend. Introducing disposable protective underwear. It combines a discreet, sure fit with a built-in super absorbent panel. It's the closest thing to regular underwear you can buy. So slim fitting, all that shows is your confidence. It's your life. Live it the way you want. New Depend protective underwear.
Get all you want out of life with Depend.
He didn't save me any?
There wasn't enough.
Quaker Toasted Oatmeal Squares. Crunchy whole grain squares with a hint of brown sugar. You haven't wanted a cereal this badly since you were a kid.
I am the changing face of real estate. I am an ear, an eye. I am a guide, a guarantee. I am Coldwell Banker, and I will find you a home.
Call your local office and discover what real estate should be.
To develop the most advanced Bengay ever, we combined 3 pain relievers for the first Trigesic formula. Ultra Strength Bengay. It heats, penetrates, relieves to help set you free. Ultra Strength Bengay.
Are video games turning kids into killers? And is violence in the movies producing violence in the schools? 60 Minutes tonight.
Hot teen movies with more sex than story. Do you really know what your kids are seeing? Get our parental guidance on how to spot the trash.
This week
on This Morning.
Chicago's Mayor Richard Daley says he will apologize personally to 2 young boys falsely accused of murder last summer. The boys, aged 7 and 8, were arrested for killing and sexually molesting an 11-year-old girl, but the charges were later dropped. Last week, a convicted sex offender was charged with the crime. Crime rates across the nation have been declining, in part because of aggressive police tactics. But some critics say they've gone too far, targeting minorities for harassment and abuse. One frequent demand is for more minority officers, but there are questions about whether a more diverse force would end excessive force.
It was not New York City's finest hour. 4 white police officers indicted for the murder of an unarmed African immigrant who died in a barrage of 41 bullets. Weeks of protest followed the killing of Amadou Diallo. Demonstrators link his death to the case of Abner Louima, who it's alleged was brutally assaulted by white officers while in a police station. More evidence, protesters say, of a police force callous and indifferent to minorities.
The police commissioner
must take specific and immediate steps to recruit more minorities and women to serve as police officers.
New York has a terrible record on the recruitment of African American officers. They've hired more officers than any other police department in the country. So they've had a tremendous opportunity to correct their problem, and they have simply failed to do that.
In a city that is 29% black, only 13% of the officers are African American. By contrast, in Boston, 26% of the residents are black, so are 24% of its officers. Boston was forced to diversify by the courts back in the 1970s, but the commitment has outlived the court order. Half of this year's class is made up of minorities. Officer George Exilian is a product of Boston's aggressive community recruitment effort. He got extra points for language skills that help him police his own neighborhood.
When you actually say something in Creole, then their eyes light up and it's like, oh, okay, Haitian officer's here. He knows how to speak Creole. And then they just break down the whole situation to you.
Diversifying a police force may give a community confidence, but the former commissioner of both the Boston and New York departments believes it won't change the way police do their jobs.
More minorities are not necessarily the panacea that people might think. Washington, D.C. has one of the highest shooting rates in the nation. It is a majority department by significant numbers.
There's quite a bit of research that indicates that police officers, regardless of their race, ethnicity, and gender, pretty much act the same in terms of use of force, arrest practices, deadly force, and so on.
But Boston officials believe the internal culture of a police force can be improved by greater diversity.
The situation that happened in regards to Abner Louima, a terrible situation there, I personally don't feel that could happen here because of the diverse nature of the police department.
The 41 shots are excessive. But we have to realize also our shooting incidents with offenders are down.
Under pressure from growing protests, New York recently announced its own recruiting drive.
We need to sell the African American community on the fact that policing is an honorable, good profession.
But even if the campaign succeeds, New York's police commissioner is not convinced it can prevent another Diallo killing.
We can work towards making sure that the community has a better perception and trust of this police department. But can I say there's never going to be another incident like Diallo? With 40,000 police officers, 6 million contacts a year, that wouldn't be it wouldn't be true.
The diversity problem within the New York City police force is most pronounced at the top. Among the 237 chiefs and inspectors who run the department, only 9 are black and 10 Hispanic.
Gateway can build you a PC that lets you be who you want to be. Like a Gateway Essential PC with an Intel Celeron processor for as low as $28 a month. And you can trade it in toward the purchase of a new one in 2 years. Call 1-800-GATEWAY.
For those smokers who are ready to quit, Nicorette introduces a breath of fresh air. New mint-flavored Nicorette gum. The same craving-fighting power of Nicorette and the flavor of mint. Nicorette helps you control your cravings so you can break free from smoking. And now you can choose your flavor. Now isn't that a breath of fresh air?
Nicorette helps you fight your cravings, your habit, your way. You can do it. Nicorette can help.
I am not an electrician. I am not a decorator. I am not a mover. I'm a home buyer. And I could use some help.
Introducing a new time-saving service exclusively for Coldwell Banker customers. Coldwell Banker Concierge is designed to help home buyers and sellers take care of the details of moving.
I am not a landscaper. I'm not a painter. And I'm going to be okay.
Call your local office and discover what real estate should be.
Sis, I snooped in your medicine cabinet. So? You switched to X-Lax.
Yeah, Correctol works with an artificial chemical. X-Lax works with natural senna.
Very effectively, too.
You tried it.
What a find.
What a snoop.
Good morning, guaranteed.
We all have
everyday needs. That's why One A Day has specialized blends of herbs, vitamins, and minerals for things like energy or less tension. Special formulas that are just what you need to feel your best.
7 more U.S. Apache helicopters landed in Albania today, building towards a planned total of 24, with a protective force now beefed up to 5,300 soldiers. As Diana Olick reports, NATO's visiting Supreme Commander says the Apaches will soon go into action in Kosovo.
From afar, they look graceful and light, but these Apache helicopters represent heavy fighting power, and it seems now serve as an excuse for a major U.S. military buildup in Albania.
That there is a whole structure in place, both with an intelligence structure, an air force out there, and a large ground support force out there, all of which are working in concert together to ensure the maximum safety for these pilots.
At the request of NATO Supreme Commander General Wesley Clark, who flew into Albania today to assess the mission, a massive support system is moving in for the Apaches. Rocket launchers, heavy terrain vehicles, and combat and intelligence platoons. It is far greater than the original force expected to be stationed here. Still, General Clark refused to answer the big question. Just when will the Apaches go to work?
I don't have a specific date as to when the Apaches are going to be operational, but we're on track, and it won't be too long.
The combination of General Clark's visit, the significant buildup of military hardware, and the fact that there are now more than 5,000 U.S. troops here just to support the Apaches seems to indicate a clear commitment to Albania as a staging ground should there be a ground war. Even if NATO hasn't decided yet, the framework is falling into place. Diana Olick, CBS News, Tirana, Albania.
This airstrip on the border is where some military experts believe a NATO ground offensive would begin. Right now, it's being prepared for a possible emergency evacuation of refugees.
There are increasing fears that the 120,000 refugees in this nearby town might provide a tempting target for a Serb attack. But refugee families believe it's worth the risk to stay, to be near their former homes.
These refugees left behind homes burned to the ground. Now they are camping in a half-finished building with the stairway paved with uncertainty. 40 people in 4 rooms.
How much did you pay to live here?
About $140 a month for 1 room, so no one will put them on buses to towns with names they do not know, paying all they have left to stay near the border. Most refugees cannot pay, and the people of this poor and crumbling town have taken tens of thousands of them into their own homes. How many people have you taken in now?
130.
The families that are crammed into every spare corner of this town simply can't believe they may never go back. I am ready to go to my garden and put up a tent there because it is sweeter than any place else, he says. Sweeter than any place this side of the border. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Kukës, Albania.
Next up on the CBS Evening News, kids and violent video games. Do the images become reality?
Natural, real. I want to look the way I feel. I'm a Grecian man. Want it quick, hassle-free. A look that really looks like me. Grecian man. A Grecian man, no time for gray. A new generation, a whole new day. Grecian 5.
She's managing her time, right down to the dime, with Sprint. Because now it's just a dime a minute on calling card calls, on calls to your Sprint 800 number, and all calls from home. Call 1-800-PIN-DROP and switch to Sprint. You can't control everything, but you can make the most of your time. Isn't that the point of contact? Switch now for a dime every time. Call 1-800-PIN-DROP.
We spin them. We freeze them. We push quality to the limit. And then we crash them. Now you can ride along. At the new Test Track presented exclusively by General Motors. Open now at Walt Disney World Resort. Fasten your seatbelt.
I am the changing face of real estate. I'm an ear. I'm a voice. I am a guarantee. I am Coldwell Banker, and I will sell your home.
Call your local office and discover what real estate should be.
What should you do if you're having a heart attack? First, call an ambulance, then take Bear aspirin. Now Bear may help stop you from dying when taken during a heart attack. Talk to your doctor now. Bear, powerful pain relief, and so much more.
The shootings at Columbine High, Monday, putting the pieces together. First, the warning signals. There seem to have been plenty of them, so how were they missed? Plus, how could two young teens have amassed the quantity of explosives and firepower they had? For the best team coverage as events continue to unfold, turn to the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
A warning tonight about a new computer virus. Experts say the Chernobyl virus can erase hard drives and prevent computers from restarting. The virus is programmed to activate tomorrow, the 13th anniversary of the nuclear accident in Ukraine. On this day of mourning in Littleton, Colorado, we look for the roots of the senseless violence that has so shaken us. Many blame our culture, the movies, music, video games. Jeffrey Kaufman talked with some teens who spend much of their day committing virtual mayhem.
In a typical day, 15-year-old Ilya and his pal Sid might kill 100, maybe 200 people, just for fun.
When we look for the source of violence in kids these days, should we be looking here or are we looking in the wrong place?
I think you partially should be looking at stuff like video games and movies and media. But I think it's mostly what the kid starts out with, like what is the values his parents teach him when he's young.
Does this make it easier to be violent, for kids to be violent in real life?
Definitely.
But you play it. You think it's bad, but
I
you
do
play
play
it.
it, but I have proper role models. I have two parents, and I have a very good school which I go to, and they set the proper example for me not to do stuff like this.
Fantasy it may be, but it is also seductive. Some weekends, Ilya travels an hour into New York to do some more shooting. And make no mistake, millions of other kids are just as obsessed without harmful consequences.
No one's going to use a gun because of a video game or because of a movie or because of television or because of music. People are going to use guns because they really feel like they just can't handle life.
The guns are killing people, not video games.
These boys know the difference. And what happened in Colorado last week scares them.
It could definitely happen in every school. I think it could happen in our school.
If there is a lesson these boys take from Littleton, it is not about violence. It is about hurting people.
That's what we should work on in our nation, that we should try to include everybody. We shouldn't make people feel like outcasts. There's too much hate in this world.
And too much sorrow in Littleton. Jeffrey Kaufman, CBS News, Franklin Lakes, New Jersey.
And that's the news. Later on CBS, 60 Minutes. The parents of an earlier school shooting sue the makers of violent video games and movies. Tomorrow on This Morning, how to find out what your kids are up to on the internet. We leave you with Amy Grant singing at this afternoon's memorial service in Littleton, Colorado. I'm Anthony Mason, CBS News in New York. Good night.
You will find mighty arms reaching for you.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online at keyword CBS News.
Oh, they will hold the answers at the end of the road. Keep on walking, child.
Experience you can trust. CBS News.
Showers and thunderstorms may greet you for the start of the work week. Your complete forecast is just ahead.
And one Tennessee school leaves nothing to chance. Next, how one student ends up being held in detention after making a casual comment about the Littleton shootings.
There is a huge traffic jam at I-65 North and Briley Parkway. I'm Mark Bellinger. I'll have a live report. The news is right here, and it is next.
From the News Channel 5 Network. This is News Channel 5 at 5:30. Your news and information leader.